I recently got the chance to stay at the Inn at 500, located in the heart of downtown Boise. With complimentary drinks at check-in and spacious luxe penthouses and suites, it's an ideal spot for celebrations and your visitors. It was the perfect place for me and my husband to sneak away for a little staycation. We loved the cozy fireplace in our room and the balcony with gorgeous views of the city skyline, where we shared coffee in the morning. Ready to plan an unforgettable Boise stay? Book now at innat500.com. Today on CityCast Boise, we're looking at the financial impact of a lawsuit that's embroiled the city, and then diving into the controversial curriculum that could be showing up in Idaho schools. Plus, we're prepping for Election Day with need-to-know tips and a thrilling pick of the week. It's Friday, November 1st. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Happy Friday, everyone. Joining me today is Boise State Public Radio's George Prentice. How are you doing today, George?
I'm okay. I'm a bit of a sugar rush from Halloween, but, there's always something left by design. I always buy too much knowing that I can get the rest.
Yeah, just hold back that candy that you
Yes.
like. That's the real trick to Halloween.
So can I tell you something real quick? I live in a high-rise, and for years, we have some resourceful kids that literally work the elevators.
Oh.
On Halloween. So they can hit, 50, 60 places in about 5 minutes. So yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Is it worth it to come to your place? Do you have good
100%.
candy? Okay.
100%. I learned it the first year. It's like, hold on, I've got to get game here. Yeah.
Well, you were just telling me about a really interesting story about a lawsuit and the city of Boise. I'd love to hear more. What's going on with the city of Boise?
Well, it is the ghost of Ryan Lee, indeed. So I don't think people have to think too far back to remember the scandal. Let's just call it the scandal of the tenure of the former chief of police, Ryan Lee.
I think that's fair.
Yes. So in 2021, not too long ago, things, I think, began to go south. I think one of the first dominoes to fall in this was when Ryan Lee put a chokehold on one of his officers. Now, Lee said it was a training incident, but the officer was Kirk Rush. And Kirk Rush said, hey, up to that point, I had a dispute with the chief over the canine unit. So first of all, the question, I think for most of us lay people, was, what is the chief of police putting hands on another officer? And I guess this chokehold was more than inappropriate, and it immediately just kicked off fireworks all throughout City Hall when people heard of this.
Yeah, wasn't it a maneuver that isn't approved or isn't allowed?
Exactly. And what is a chief doing this? It's like, as opposed to the trainer or even a fellow officer, it's like the chief doing this to one of his subordinates. So there's all kinds of wrong about this. So it triggered a big lawsuit, and former Officer Kirk Rush, sued the city of Boise because at the time Ryan Lee was the chief. And he said, this was retaliatory. This was wrong. And Rush said he actually suffered significant physical injury. So the Ryan Lee drama just got worse and ultimately ended with the mayor asking for him to resign over a number of things. But that lawsuit continued. And the city of Boise eventually settled that lawsuit with former Officer Kirk Rush for $850,000. So that was the settlement. Now, initially, the city put aside $50,000 for legal costs, which is a fairly healthy sum, with a local law firm. So initially, the city of Boise secured the services of the law firm Anderson, Julian, and Hull, and the city put aside $50,000 for legal costs to defend the city in this lawsuit. They ended up paying Officer Rush $850,000 in a really healthy settlement. But it turns out that the legal fees were extraordinarily much higher. And we learned this week that the city has to add $150,000 to that figure. So it is a 498% increase. Let's call it a 500% increase just in legal costs to the city. We called the city and they asked, okay, now where did you see this? And I said, well, I saw it deep in your ordinances here. And by the way, they passed it at the city council meeting this week and nobody said a word about this. And they said, oh, well, our insurance is going to cover it. We pay the first $500,000, but our insurance will cover the rest. Wow. When we say the city, we truly need to feel as if, well, that's all of us. That's our insurance policy.
Yeah, that's taxpayers.
Indeed.
Yeah. So will this affect taxes? Will this affect, prices on anything?
They insist no. But you know and I know in the real world, when we get into a car accident and we think, oh, thank goodness I have insurance. But you know and I know what happens when there is a claim and your insurance. Insurance goes up. So the city insists, no, it's not going to have any impact on the budget. I think it remains to be seen of what our insurance policy is going to look like the next time it comes up for renewal. But this is a huge payout. And they weren't even close to the cost of the legal fees.
Yeah. Why do we know why there was such a discrepancy between the initial amount they put aside and how much it ended up being?
Their argument is that it took much longer than they thought, and I guess they thought they were going to win this, and they didn't. They settled, and as a result, they have to pay Officer Rush's legal fees as well. That said, boy, they were way off the mark.
Yeah. So, George, is there like a total number, a total calculation, or it's as close as we can get for how much the city will have paid for this lawsuit?
$299,000 just for the legal fees. On top of that, $850,000 for Kirk Rush.
So over $1 million.
Well over $1 million.
Wow.
Yeah. And by the way, when I was going through all of these notes, it's like, Ryan Lee, when will this story never end?
Have any public officials or, city council, anybody made a public statement about this at all?
No, they have not. And I was hoping, because sometimes at city council meetings, they have a long list of ordinances that they go through. And more often than not, they'll pull one out and make a comment. They didn't say a word about this. So the only person who we did talk to was a spokesperson for the mayor's office who clarified, well, we have our first $500,000 out of pocket. The rest is insurance. And again, they insist, oh, it shouldn't impact our budget. That's all they're saying.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Hey Boise, as we head into November, the season of gratitude, it's easy to focus on giving thanks to others, our coworkers, neighbors, friends, and family. But how often do we stop to express gratitude for ourselves? Taking care of you is one of the best ways to show up for those you love, and therapy is a powerful tool to help you learn to do that. This is where BetterHelp comes in. With BetterHelp, you get connected with a licensed therapist for an online appointment that's convenient and flexible, so it fits in your busy holiday schedule. And you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Whether you're working on self-acceptance, managing stress, or finding new ways to appreciate yourself for who you are, therapy can help. So this month, let's learn to be thankful for ourselves too. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/citycast today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/citycast.
This episode is brought to you by Etsy.
Oh.
Hear that?
Okay. Thank you.
Etsy knows these aren't the sounds of holiday gifting. Well, not the ones you're hoping for. You want squeals of delight. Happy tears.
How did you?
And spontaneously written songs of joy.
I am so happy. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, the song needs a bit of work, but anyway, to get those reactions, make sure everyone on your list feels heard with handmade, handpicked, and designed gifts from small shops on Etsy. Gifts like personalized jewelry, custom artwork, cozy style items, vintage pieces, and home decor to celebrate all of your favorite people and their specific kind of special. For original gifts that say, I get you, Etsy has it.
George, there's been kind of a buzz about some potential educational changes coming to Idaho. Laughing is appropriate. I said educational with heavy, asterisk. The state superintendent, Debbie Critchfield, has announced that she is partnering with PragerU to offer free curriculum materials to Idaho schools. I know that I have a lot of thoughts about this. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this.
It doesn't take anyone long to type in the words Prager University and pretty much understand where their agenda is.
Oh, it's not even Prager University. It's just PragerU.
PragerU.
Yeah, because they want you to think it's a university. They want you to think it's got some kind of authority to it. And it's just a media company founded by a radio host.
And indeed, the consultants, I guess, if you will, of their curricula are folks that you would often see on Fox News and even some media outlets that are even to the right of Fox News.
Oh, absolutely.
To say that they're controversial is an understatement.
Yeah, they've worked heavily with Charlie Kirk, who has founded Turning Point USA and is known for making quite controversial statements. I think it's really interesting, too, that this company is going to be offering books and, videos to Idaho schools. But PragerU's YouTube channel has been restricted and demonetized because of hate speech. So that kind of gives you an idea of the quality of materials that they offer, just a general idea about kind of what's going on with this company. And now their materials are allowed to be in public schools.
When our newsroom got the news release from Superintendent Critchfield's office, no one saw this coming. It's like, hold it, what is this? And why is this happening? And Debbie Critchfield is saying, well, one district has requested this. Now, we don't know what district that is. We don't know if it was a handful of people. We don't even know if it was one person in that district that requested this. And she says, well, if someone else requests it, again, we'll make it available. And part of her argument, again, is that, well, it's free. Well, that doesn't legitimize anything if it's free.
No.
And she also says, well, if we find something left of center or maybe leaning to a liberal agenda, we might consider that too if someone requested that. But we don't know which district. I think we will pretty darn soon. We'll know which district because somebody has requested this. And if they're going to fold this into their curriculum, I think there's going to be plenty of questions, which let's go back to the basics of education and curriculum. The fact is, we have a United States Department of Education, a federal Department of Education that has no say whatsoever in curriculum in the United States. Not only does it go down to the state, it goes down to individual school districts so that some school districts can, well, quite frankly, promote things that just aren't true.
Exactly. Well, and Debbie Critchfield is trying to maintain a lot of plausible deniability with this, saying that she's not putting it in schools, but if parents request it or school board trustees want to have it in the schools, then they can. But she's opening the door. She has opened the door to make these materials available in Idaho schools. And for anybody, and she did a video with PragerU and they're like, just look at the materials. So I did. Because, of course I did. They have a video about Columbus that justifies slavery, where Christopher Columbus says, it's better to be a slave and it's better that I enslaved these people than that I killed them. Not, glossing over the fact that he did kill many, many indigenous people. But there's justification for British colonialism of India, saying that was so good for the people of India. There's just so much whitewashing of history. The founder, Dennis Prager, has openly stated that his goal with these materials is to, quote, indoctrinate American children with a right-wing worldview, end quote. So he's not subtle about what he's trying to do. And now I mean, so what parents are going to have to, we're going to have to go to school board meetings. We're going to have to see, are these materials in our children's classrooms? Are they being offered to them as a teaching material, as something that our kids are hearing, as if that is an accurate or appropriate way to engage with history or civics?
Indeed. And where does this fold into any kind of learning? Some of this touches World War II and the Holocaust. Some of this touches the Civil War. And many of these, and I'll just call them opinions, are just flat out falsehoods.
Yeah.
So are you introducing this into some type of class of debate? Because if you're putting this in front of 7th and 8th graders when we learn about these things, heaven help us all.
I think this is very concerning. If this is also concerning to listeners, the best thing to do is get involved, to, contact the state superintendent and her office, to talk to your local school board, because these are being offered as if they're educational materials, as if it's like a textbook. It is very disingenuous to offer these clearly I think that's a generous way to describe these materials, these clearly opinionated materials, as if they were fact, as if they are presenting a way to look at this that is very factual. And that does a great disservice to our children and our education system in this state.
Once upon a time, school boards were a reflection of our neighborhoods, and they were not unlike PTA meetings. But school board meetings of late have become contentious and ugly, and a lot of people are saying there is no way in hell that I will actually run for a school board seat. And especially here in Idaho, I've covered a number of school boards where these meetings have gone totally off the rails. It has been a strategy to target school boards, to change curricula, et cetera, and I think that this is right there with that strategy. I'm not saying it's right, wrong, left, or right. All I'm saying is, like, when something is wrong, it doesn't matter where it is on the spectrum, you don't want that anywhere near a classroom.
Well, and we've been hearing from the right in Idaho about propaganda, about indoctrinating students. It sounds like those accusations are actually a confession at this point, because this is clearly materials meant to indoctrinate children to look at the world in a very specific way, not to teach them to think for themselves or to look at facts or data points and form their own opinion, but that they need to think about it in a very specific way. And that is incredibly dangerous. Okay, George, I'm all fired up now, but let's maybe soothe it down, take it down a little bit. And I want to know, what's your pick of the week?
My pick of the week, surprise, surprise, is a movie.
I count on it.
I think it will be one of the most talked about movies of the fall, if not the year. Yesterday, I had a private screening of Heretic.
Okay. Oh, George, I am so excited to watch this movie. I've already bought tickets.
You should be
so excited. As a former Mormon, I cannot wait.
Yeah, there won't be any field trips from the LDS Church to see screenings of Heretic as soon as they find out about this film. By the way, the writer-directors are Scott Beck and Brian Woods, and these are the folks who wrote and directed A Quiet Place and that franchise. So really good original writing. So to your point, this is a story about two Mormon teenage girls on their mission. They're door knocking, and they come to the house one day of this very typical American home. And the owner of the home is played by Hugh Grant. And he says, come on in. And they say, well, we're really not allowed to come in unless there's a woman present. He says, oh, well, my wife is baking a pie in the kitchen. Can't you smell it? And they can actually smell some blueberry pie. And so they say, okay. And he goes, oh, come on in, have some pie. And then you're off to the races. So this Hugh Grant character comes across as charming, compelling, but ultimately diabolical. The first third of the film is cerebral, and he's challenging them. He's challenging the doctrine, etc. So it's this really smart give and take, But then, well, I'm just not going to tell you.
What did you think out of 10? Rating it 0 to 10. What did you think?
I think this is a solid 8.5.
Okay.
And
okay.
it's the best thing Hugh Grant has done. So for the record, this is not Notting Hill. This is not Love Actually. This is a hard R-rated thriller movie. But the two young actresses, Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East, are the real stars of this film. And so if you hate scary movies, probably you want to stay away from this. But it's a smart, scary movie. And it will have you talking for weeks.
Oh, George, I love this pick of the week. Thank you.
Yep,
I
you bet.
have been so excited about that. Okay, my pick of the week is less thrilling, but it's important. So today, the day this episode airs, is the last day for early voting. And it closes at 5 p.m. So seriously, if you have a lunch break, if you have time, go before 5 p.m. if you have a chance. If not, again, voting day is on Tuesday, November 5th. So you will still have a chance to vote. But I do want to make a note about people with absentee ballots. Now, people have been saying, just get it postmarked by Election Day, you'll be fine. That is not true. That is not true. You need to be submitting it as quickly as possible. So don't count on the post office. It needs to be there by Election Day. So there are drop-off boxes at City Hall, at Boise City Hall, at Meridian City Hall. You just need to to be safe, to be sure, you need to drop it off at a box. Make sure it's there. Don't count on the post office. The post office does great work, but they're very busy right now, and that's just not a guarantee if you want your vote counted. So my pick of the week is vote. But, the options are shifting. Today's the last day for early voting. If you've got an absentee ballot, get it in. Don't trust that the post office will get it there in time.
Yep.
And then you can still vote on Election Day on November 5th. And you can register to vote at the polls. You can do that in Idaho. I've had that conversation with several people who weren't sure if they were registered or found out they weren't registered. You can register to vote on Election Day. You're going to need a government-issued ID, a driver's license, or a passport. You can use your concealed carry permit also. And you're going to need proof of address. So like a power bill, a water bill, something with your address on it that proves you live there, you're paying bills there. So if you have those things, you can register day of. And it's so important. We were just talking about what's happening with schools in Idaho. Like, local elections matter. They affect all kinds of things in our lives, like the curriculum and materials our children are exposed to. So please, 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 it is so important. My pick of the week is please vote. Make your voice heard.
The entire Idaho legislature is up for grabs in this election. Yes, we're picking a president. Yes, there's Proposition 1, but the entire Idaho House and the entire Idaho Senate is on the ballot. And by the way, one other note to your point about what ID you need to register. Someone asked me the other day, hey, I've just moved here and I'm in the process of getting my driver's license. It turns out, and I confirmed this with the election officials, if you apply for that driver's license and you're still waiting for it, the actual receipt that they give you is valid ID. So if you if say you just moved here, but you just got to the DMV and you haven't, it hasn't showed up in the mail yet, or that receipt is legitimate. And one other note too, on election night, when the polls close at 8 p.m., as long as you are in line, as long as you are officially in line, you will be able to vote, even if it's past 8 p.m. If you're in line by 8 p.m., your vote will be counted. But to your point on those absentee ballots, and there is a myth going around town right now about security and legitimacy of absentee ballots, I'm here to tell you that requests of absentee ballots are logged. And when the requests go, and after the absentee ballot goes out and comes back, they go to that same log and log it back in. And then they verify the signature. They are not only valid, they are extremely secure.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And good tip if you've just moved here and are waiting on your driver's license. That is a great tip. And also, yeah, if you're in line, stay in line.
Yes, but get in line.
Get in line. Get in line by the time the polls close at 8 p.m., but then stay in line so that your vote counts.
It appears as if this is definitely an historic turnout, just based on early voting.
Based on early voting, this is going to be a very interesting election. So if you want to be part of it, if you want to be part of something historic and interesting, vote. That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. The show is produced by Evelyn Avitia, Frankie Barnhill, Natalie Rivera, Francisco Kilgore, and me, Lindsay Van Allen. Blake Hunter writes our Hey Boise newsletter, and our music is by Up Is the Down Is The. If you enjoyed our show today, leave us a review. It helps other people find us. We'll be back on Monday with a look at the effects of Boise's growth. Catch you then.